Hello everyone, very good evening to those in Canada and very good afternoon to those in India. So today we have a very talented writer from Canada, Matthew Heneghan. We have published a book of his, we can call it a memoir, a medic's mind, love, loss, and all things in between. It's an interesting book. I just finished reading it myself, and I can tell you that it's worth it. And with this, let me have Matthew over and have a gossip with him about the book. So, hi Matthew.
Hey, how are
Very
you?
warm welcome to the event and book reading of A Medic's Mind, Love, Loss, and All Things in Between. So, how does it feel to become an author of your second book in the row?
Yeah, it's a humbling experience for sure. I'm really grateful to you and your publishing house for giving me the opportunity to share my story and to share more of my story. So, it's deeply humbling and gratifying. So I thank you very, very much for the opportunity.
It was a pleasure for us as well to publish this book. I really don't get time to read books, but I did pick this up. My editors generally read the books, and I'm okay with what they say. And
Yeah.
this particular book was a page turner, and I really enjoyed running through each chapter in this book.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what is it that inspired you to share bits and pieces of your life through this book? Or I would say the book before this one also was about a little bits and pieces of your life, and then you published this one with us, which is incidentally the title remains somewhat the same, I believe. So,
Yeah, similar. Yeah. So, I mean, what motivated me to write was when it comes to the topic of mental health, especially with men and mental health, a lot of times we don't really talk too openly about our struggles. In here in North America, it's one of those things that it's sort of seen as almost a sign of weakness to admit that sometimes you're not okay. And that's starting to wane a little bit now, that narrative. And so when I started to go through my struggles, with post-traumatic stress disorder and with depression and kind of suffering the effects of some of the things that I'd been through as a kid through to my time as a paramedic, it became very important for me to be able to speak openly because I had remained silent for so long, and it was such a detriment to my health, physical and mental. And so writing became an outlet for me to express how I was feeling in sort of a safe and controlled way, where I got to control what I was talking about. So those are the biggest motivators behind my wanting to write and potentially piece together a book.
tapping upon the subject of mental health, it's a huge debate and discussion, especially in today's day when people have gone through COVID and it's really trending these days with lots
Yeah.
and lots of cases coming up of. But what you speak of is mental health issues originating out of childhood being difficult or traumatic, or you call it circumstantially discorded in some way or the other. It is something which I know that it is a very rough path to go through and to face. And I do really hope that this book is inspiring those who are going through such circumstances in their life to use it as therapy as well, how you have done it. You are, as if I'm saying that you can become an inspiration for others as well through you setting an example here.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for your kind words. They mean a lot to me, and that was sort of my hope as well in writing, is that I used to work on the ambulance. I used to be a medic. I used to be able to help people physically. I used to respond to people's times of need, and for a time I was good at it. I was able to help people, and I was able to use the skills of my hands and in my mind to alleviate a lot of their problems. And when that stopped for me, when I was no longer able to do that, writing and being open about my struggles in hopes that somebody who's going through similar or unique circumstances would read it and feel not quite so alone. So my hope is really to connect with people. I mean, that's my biggest goal for writing anything, is to connect with other people and just kind of share experience and let them know that they're not alone, and that none of us are alone, even if we feel like we are sometimes.
So, did you come across anybody who went through similar circumstances and reacted differently from what you did?
Yeah, I mean, coming from the paramedic world and coming from being a soldier as well, I know a lot of people that have unique, let's call them ailments or burdens. Some are similar to mine. Some react similar, and some are still kind of actively in sort of a drinking stage, where they're kind of drinking their problems away or trying to numb things. The sort of the reaction to personal trauma is so very subjective, even though there's a few objective tangibles that clinicians can latch onto to help diagnose, but it's such a subjective thing that people kind of go through their own struggles in their own way. So yeah, I've come across people on my journey that are similar to me, that have had similar paths, and other people that have had incredibly difficult and arduous paths outside of mine, and other people who seemingly have had a more linear and less turbulent path to get to where they needed to go. So yeah, I've met a wide range of people.
Interesting. You have shared, I think, a few of your connections who were close to you in your book, and certain chapters, excerpts and instances of friends of, I think, childbirth. Also, you've given one instance of a lady who, in a very difficult situation, you had done delivery of a baby. I think I remember that story.
Yeah.
Yes. And a drinking friend. I think you've shared a story about a drinking friend also.
Yeah, there's been a couple of those.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't so much drink anymore, but I do have a few stories with a few drinking friends, and I've delivered a few babies here and there along the way.
Interesting. So this is the question comes from the editor, who has published your book, that is Anshika Singh, who is from Jaipur here in India. She asks me to ask you, do you think the government needs to focus on outreach programs in identifying and handling for children with difficult family lives? What kind of programs would you recommend that the government should look at in initiating and handling this?
Well, that's a fantastic question. It's a brilliant question. I always think that our governments and our powers that be could do better, but it's a very tough thing to do, because abuse and fractured homes are sometimes so hard to see visually, so hard to optically identify, that by the time the government and the powers that be, like social workers and things, become involved, it's already too late. It's beyond the point. Damage has already been done, and it becomes really tough to be proactive, because in order to be proactive, you almost have to invade somebody's privacy, and so then the question becomes, where do you draw the line on privacy and being proactive on stopping things? So I think it's a very complicated thing. I think that I just think maybe there should be more education around what services are available to people who might be struggling within broken homes, within abusive homes, or whatever the case may be. I think the government should spend more money in educating and promoting those things to the general public, because a lot of people don't know what kind of help is out there, because it's just not talked about very openly. And so, I think it's a brilliant question. It's very difficult to answer simplistically, but it's a brilliant question.
I just recently published another author collection of poems called Unheard Whispers. And this author is also a victim to a home where she spent under alcoholism. A home where she says over here in this book is poems on growing up in an alcoholic home. So it's quite a similar situation here, except that she's written her poems and she's published with us, and in your case it's slightly different.
Yeah, that's the thing about trauma, is that there can be a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of shared commonalities too. It's pain is pain, and I think that sometimes you can just relate to somebody if for no other reason than pain, because it's the one thing that we can all identify with. It crosses all socioeconomic barriers. It crosses all language barriers. It crosses ideological bounds. It's the one thing that really connects us is heartache, and I think that when somebody goes through traumatic experiences, whether it's from an abusive home or an alcoholic home or drugs or whatever the case may be, I think there's a shared commonality in that, feeling hopelessness at times, and I think that's a feeling that we can probably share linkage with.
So how? So it's not really. It's a very, as you said, that it is a very complicated question to answer. How the government can outreach and address this matter. Is it possible on the people's level to make this happen through some sort of maybe NGOs or some sort of awareness programs? Do you think that will work?
Yeah, I think awareness programs are crucial. I think that targeting certain areas like lower income homes and high crime areas, I think that it's safe to assume that in those areas there's probably families that are struggling with a myriad of different issues, whether it's drugs and alcohol, or whether it's abuse, or whether it's just finances. I think having some more education in those areas, some more awareness of what help is out there and what help is available, I think that'd be a key thing. At the person level, like the social worker level, or even just the volunteer level, having some flyers to hand out, or having some ads on bus stops or on the sides of buildings, I think I think that would be a step in the right direction.
Those are very good suggestions that can probably do wonders. because those are places where people would probably end up when they are really traumatized or feeling lonely, or you can say feeling misunderstood or out of place, or sometimes even suicidal, if you would like to put it that. So, Matthew, I was just wanting to tap upon two other books that you have been published with us in. One is It Was a Mistake, a collection of short stories where we've collected mistakes that people experienced and enjoyed living through. I guess this is a very non-cliche subject which I have at least not come across. What do you have to say about it?
Well, when I saw the call for submissions there, and sort of the theme of it, I jumped on it because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, plenty, and some bigger than others, and some funnier than others, and some again, I think it's one of the things that we can all relate to. I think nobody's perfect, so I think mistakes is something that we can all relate to. But I kind of enjoy writing about certain aspects of my mistakes, certain aspects of my growth, in a little more lighthearted of a way, because I think if you take yourself too seriously all the time, then you're never going to make it out of this life alive. You have to be able to laugh at yourself, and you have to be able to just laugh in general. And so it's nice to be able to think back on some lighter times as well. And it's really nice to have the opportunity to kind of put that into a book format and share that with the world as well. So
I think I'm going to start a series of this book.
Yeah,
I'll start another series.
Well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other book that you've been published with us is the first book we published under this imprint, Free Spirit, is Ynforgettable.
Yeah.
Stories that,
yeah, that was
have been.
That summer. The story that's in there actually was featured on a local television station here back last summer, and it's actually got me a public speaking opportunity that I'll be doing on April 8th for the North Emergency Support Services Group, and they're the people that help with evacuations and finding people places to stay and giving them food and things like that.
Wow.
I wrote the story to say thank you to them, and they caught wind of the story and they liked it so much that they asked me to be a keynote speaker at their upcoming assembly. And originally they were going to pay me a fee for it, and I had said I don't really feel right about taking money for expressing my gratitude. And so we actually worked out a deal where instead of getting paid for it, that money is actually going to be donated to the local fire department here in town, to kind of help boost their things a little bit. So that story that's published in that book, is really kind of helped me connect with more and more people, and it's going to be nice because during the public speaking event, I'm going to talk about that book, and actually, because you sent me a copy of it, I'm going to show them the book and see
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no,
and
it's
all the best for the event on the 8th.
Thank you.
We also have another event coming up on the 8th for another book launch, which will take
excellent.
place.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. And with this, I guess, is there anything else that you'd like to share with me? And yes, the social initiatives that you do across are something which not everybody is able to do, and it's a gift. I really feel great to be with you and to connect on those lines.
Yeah,
And,
likewise. I, once we started connecting and talking, there was just such a genuine nature about you, and I felt really at ease with publishing my work with you, just because you were so open and communicative, and made everything feel really, really really, really open and transparent. And so I need to thank you for that. And again, thank you and your publishing house for allowing me just to share more of my work with more people. It does mean a lot. So it's deeply, deeply humbled and deeply appreciative.
You also have one more book coming up. I think you'd shared with me. Would you like to talk and give a pitch on that to the audience who will listen to us?
Like the other book that I'm going to be in.
I think it's 7. The name of the book is 7. Is it? I don't remember. You shared with me about a few days back about a new next book coming up.
Yeah, there's a new book. It's called Dream.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Dream, and it's another anthology, so a collection of short stories. And I published a story in there.
Okay.
And it's about it's another lighthearted story about a friend of mine that still lives in town here, and we connect all the time. We go and play golf very poorly together, and
golf, is it? Wow.
Yeah, I'm
Luxury.
terrible at golf, but I love it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I get to do that, and I'm working on a kid's book actually. My girlfriend's youngest daughter has type 1 diabetes, and when she was first diagnosed, she didn't really understand why she had to take needles all the time, and she didn't understand why she couldn't just eat the food that she did before. And being a paramedic and having dealt with a lot of diabetics and having that knowledge, I wanted to write something for her so that she would understand. And so I created this kind of fantasy world where Lady Olivia is the main heroine, and she rides with a brave knight named Sir Insulin. And it basically just, in a very kid way, explains what insulin does and how it helps and why she needs it in order to continue her adventures throughout the land. And so I'm working on that. Hopefully I can get that published at some point in the next year or so. But yeah, I'm always writing.
Oh, interesting. So being a paramedic, I wanted to know from you about a particular disorder. What is your research or what is your knowledge about it? It is popular. I have published a book also of a writer who suffers from it. It's called Whispers in the Wind. The author suffers from a brain disorder called epilepsy.
Yeah.
So what is your insight into that? As a paramedic, you must have come across this disorder, I'm sure.
A lot, yeah. It's a very complicated and nuanced disorder, because even though somebody may have the diagnosis of epilepsy, it affects people in so many different ways. For example, I used to pick up this homeless gentleman quite often on the ambulance, and he suffered from epilepsy, but he could tell when they were going to happen. Because he called it an aura. He could just feel it, and he could smell things, and then he started to kind of see halos, and he knew that he had a short period of time before he would have a seizure. And so he would call an ambulance, and we would show up, and he would tell us, I'm going to have a seizure. And he would absolutely have a seizure, probably within about 10 or 15 minutes from when he said that. And then there's people who don't know they're about to have it. It just happens. And so that's why people with epilepsy can't drive. They're not licensed to drive automobiles. But essentially, what's happening in the brain is there's only a couple of things that cause seizures. It's either a lack of oxygen or a lack of sugar.
Lack of oxygen or lack of sugar.
Yeah, and not sugar in the sense of candy bar sugars, but just kind of the stuff, the metabolistic side of things inside the body. But nobody really knows why those two things are happening in the case of epilepsy, because when you and I take a breath in and out, our body is doing everything it needs to do to exchange the gases and the oxygen, and then we breathe and we just live. Whereas somebody with epilepsy is doing the same thing we are, but for whatever reason, something in the body just isn't working. And so their brain starves itself from oxygen and then ends up having a seizure, which ultimately acts as sort of a reset button, in a very roundabout way. Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting disorder here, I must say.
Yeah, it's I feel so bad for anybody that has it, because it's just such a tough thing to combat and it, to kind of live with. So my heart goes out to anyone who's afflicted by it. But yeah, it's a very unique disorder.
Interesting. So, like epilepsy, any other particular ailments that you might have faced and seen as a paramedic that you'd like to share with us? It would be interesting to hear stories of a paramedic.
You would be amazed how many people call an ambulance and then answer the door without wearing pants. You'd be amazed.
Okay.
It's just so many people, for whatever reason, they're just not wearing pants.
There's no link between the two, man. How do you
No,
like...
I don't. It's beyond me. But it's something that happens. Yeah, it's yeah. There's that. We deal with drunk people quite often, just because Canada has universal health care, so ambulances for the most part are free. So people will call us if they're drunk or they've drank too much. And I went to the university in Alberta. I went to the university one time because a college student was drunk and their friends were worried about them, so they called us. And we go into the dorm room, everyone is still partying. And I said, "Where's the patient?" And they said, "Oh, he's in the bathroom." And I said, "Okay." And we get let into the bathroom, and this poor kid is in the bathtub, and they've just turned the shower on, and he's been being hit with cold water for however long, and now he's hypothermic. And so he's in a really bad way. And I was like, "Why'd you put him in the shower?" They're like, "Oh, he was throwing up." I was like, "Well, why'd you turn the water on?" They're like, "He said he was really hot." And I was like, "How long has he been in there?" They're like, "I don't know, 45 minutes. Like, oh. So he had a very bad night.
Oh, wow.
He ended up being totally fine, but he had a very bad night.
Interesting. Seriously. Yeah. Crazy things happen. People have some really, really crazy concepts when it comes to medicine and handling medical issues, isn't it?
Yeah, my partner used to say to me, he said, being a paramedic is having front row seats to the greatest show on earth.
Okay. That's a really, wow. So,
yeah.
Okay, so I guess there were a few other questions that the editor had asked, but we have sort of addressed them in the very beginning, where she was wanting to know about childhood trauma affecting your decisions of becoming a paramedic. I think you already answered that. And then how other people similar to how you've been through have reacted to, which also I think. And with that, we can conclude the event. And again, I'll just like to share the book cover with everybody. This is the book, and you can order it online on Amazon and on our website, that is poetschoice.in. And do read it, guys, and do review. A dear author would like to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How the book is. And with that, I think let's conclude this event. Namaste. And
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.